Richárd Rapport versus Praggnanandhaa. Praggnanandhaa, hey, 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 he resigned. He actually didn't resign.
What, Praggnanandhaa?
He didn't resign, and
Well, don't give up.
and he didn't get mated.
Oh, don't give away the game. You're about to show it.
I gotta give it away. Give it away now.
As part of the
Always giving it
drama.
away because the person who did well is on the bottom. Okay. Okay, so this is Rapport. Now, Praggnanandhaa's having a great tournament. He has 2 wins and 6 draws before this game. And Rapport, loses occasionally and draws occasionally. Terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Rapport's playing badly because he doesn't know who's better, him or Duda. Okay. So they played Italian Stallion, the boring variation, which is what everybody does. They're always playing the boring variation. Okay, now, often in the Italian, white will play knight f1 at some point, and then probably knight g3. Although occasionally knight e3, but okay. And if white castles first, which is the most common, then white has to play rook e1, so his knight can go to f1. So he's hoping to save a tempo by playing knight f1 right away. And sometimes, if you play knight f1 before you castle, but not in this position, but sometimes knight g4 is a good move. Because, you got to watch it. And you could probably play knight e3 against that, would be my guess. In fact, let me just check the engine, make sure that I'm right. Right, knight e3. And in fact, this is fine for black. There's nothing wrong with this. Okay, and Praggnanandhaa played knight e7, because, c'est la même chose, oui? Okay. Knight g3, knight g6, cavalier g6. C'est bon pour noir, oui? Bon. Okay, dans cette position, he played bishop g5. And then it looks like that's a silly move. Okay, recommended by John Cleese. Because after knight g6, black's next move is going to be h6. And then why's my bishop here? Okay. And before black put it in h, white put it in h. h4. That's how Karen does it. Bishop g5, h4. So his idea is if you play h6, I'm going to play h5. And then if you take this, which is bad, I take, and this is pinned, then you have an open file here to your king, and knight takes g5, and queen's coming in, and so forth. This is winning for white. Okay, so Praggnanandhaa played a very simple move. Instead of playing h6, he just played rook e8. And he wants the center to open up because he sees white's king is there. So d4 is never going to happen. And maybe black will play d5. And rook f8, if necessary, rook e8 gives the f8 square for the knight in case of h5, which he did not need. He didn't do it. And when he played rook e8, the fiddler was surprised. He didn't look at that move. Okay, h5, knight f4. And now in this position, he was surprised again. He thought white would take this, then play queen c2 and castle queenside. But he just played knight g3 and ignored his pawn here. And the engine doesn't take that pawn, and neither did Praggnanandhaa. If you take this pawn, check, king f1, knight f4, and now h6. And this pin is annoying. And opening the g file might actually help white. And the engine actually really likes white here, even though it's like a complete mess. Okay, that's what Rapport likes. He likes a complete mess. Okay, Praggnanandhaa's move is recommended by the engine as the only good move, h6. Now if you play bishop h4 to maintain the pin, knight takes g2 check and take the bishop. So he takes on f4, takes back, attacking the knight. The knight goes to e2. And this position, Praggnanandhaa's move is not recommended by the engine. It wants to move the bishop back because d4 is coming, but d4 is not coming if the bishop moves back because the e pawn's hanging. Or play c6 ostensively to play d5. And instead, Praggnanandhaa played knight g4, attacking the pawn on f2. And white doesn't really want to castle kingside because he's played h4, h5. So and his bishop's here, his knights come, so he wants to play on the king side. So he played rook f1, confusing the audience. Could also play d4, which is fine, but that weakens the e4 pawn. But he could play it. But he played rook f1, and that's, again, Rapport is a very creative player. He gets positions other people don't get, and then if you get confused, you can lose. And Rapport always playing for the win, always playing the most complicated line, and thinks he can just outplay his opponent. Okay. Now in this position, the engine doesn't like this move, and it wants black to play a5, which is a very strange move.
What was the preferred move instead of the rook move?
It preferred d4.
Oh, it did prefer.
Yeah.
Okay, you said that. Well, so none of those knight to d4s worked, just to kind of block it off.
You could play knight to d4, but then this makes a lot of sense now. You could play f5 or d5 and watch your king here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so he played knight f6. The engine doesn't say that's the best, but it's still about equal. Queen c2, defending his e-pawn and preparing to castle queenside. Bishop g4, which is fine, and he long castled. And in this position, black played a rather strange move. The engine wants him to play c6 or a5. Played bishop a7. So white's up a pawn. Black has two bishops, and the position's sort of weird. And the engine likes white now. He played c6. Rook de1, breaking the pin. And he takes his pawn back. Knight takes h5. Queen to d2, which is fine. Queen to f6 is fine. Takes. Materials equal. And he plays rook h1. The engine slightly prefers knight h2. And then we'll try to play g4 and f4 and so forth. Okay. And what's funny is I remember Svidler saying, I wouldn't take this pawn because I'd be too afraid to open my king up. And he's right. The engine prefers bishop g6. Still says white's better, but it prefers to what he did. And he did do that because he's Praggnanandhaa. So when Svidler says, this opens my king, so I don't want to do that, I'm afraid, this gives off Yasser Seirawan vibes. Okay? When Yasser does commentary, he often says things like, I don't like that. Like, that's not my kind of chess. I don't play like that. Homie, don't do that. And typically, players who are young and 2700-ish, they don't play like that. They calculate a million moves ahead, then they play the move that's the best. And sometimes the old men are right. Sometimes, the old man knowledge of, this doesn't look quite right. It's not good. And so, in this particular situation, Svidler was right that it's too much attack for white, and he shouldn't do this. Thanks, VZDJ88. Thanks, PhotoChess, for the huge raid.
Yay.
233 viewers. What else?
Yay, thank you, PhotoChess. Archer's home, but I just texted him. I'll be up there in a moment.
Okay. So he did take on f3. Now, this is actually quite funny. So in this position, you'll notice this pawn is attacked because it's attacked. And when Svidler was analyzing this before it happened, he said, well, the engine says a move that's not very human. And when Svidler said that, I thought, that's pretty human. So I was confused. I was like, that's the move I would probably play. And he thought a human wouldn't play that. And the problem with Svidler's thinking is I don't see another move. So I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, this pawn's hanging. I'm not going to be down two pawns. I don't want to give up two pawns. So he played rook h2. So he can double rooks, or he can double on the g file, and he saves his pawn. And the queen's not attacking the rook anymore, so my rook can move vertically if necessary.
Right.
And that is what Rapport played, and the engine says that's a great move. Okay, now in this position, black isn't doing well, and Svidler was right. He said he would be scared if he was black here, and he wouldn't do this. And the engine says, I'm scared, and I'm not doing this. So white very simply wants to play rook g1, and then we're threatening all kinds of goodies, like rook takes g7, and queen takes h6, and rook takes h6, and so forth. So Praggnanandhaa did something that even I would be scared to do. He ran away. Okay, he is a kid, so sometimes you have to run away. Okay, he played king f8.
And that is a theme of this stream, running.
That's right. The king's going to run. It's a marathon. Okay. So he played bishop d1, forcing the queen out. The queen has to go to f6 because there's no other square. And now we play f4. And it's becoming clear that black's position isn't good because white's going to have this gigantic center and the bishop sucks. And as a friend of mine once told me 35 years ago, when you give a lot of pawns away, whether by accident or not, you have more open files for your rooks, which is actually true in this situation. Okay. And the engine doesn't like black's position here, and it doesn't like at all what Praggnanandhaa does. Praggnanandhaa generally likes when there's a clear plan, and he can get an advantage by outplaying his opponent. And here he's worse, and it's not clear where his king should go. And he played king e7. He wanted to run to the queen side. So he's hoping to make several moves in a row and get his king over here, then he's fine. Mm-hmm. Okay. So d4, very reasonable. King d7. Engine does play king d7. e5. You can see this bishop's not very good.
Yeah.
Queen e7. Rook g2, threatening the g-pawn. You can't give up the g-pawn. So it wants him to play rook g8. That way his other rook could, come here and he finally can run with his king. Mm-hmm, and after f5, his position's still really bad. Okay, but he played g6, which is extra bad. And now a lot of moves win. e6 is a good move, but he just played f5, which is probably better. And my queen's attacking this. I'm coming for your king. I'm coming. And this bishop is you're just playing down a piece. Your bishop has no play.
It's terrible.
So he takes, rook g7, rook f8, d takes e5 was best, but he still lost. And then e6 check. You can't take the pawn. So he moves his king away. Bishop h5. God damn. Right. And then again, I understand black's king is no good, and white's going to get a passed pawn on the 7th. But, okay, bishop on a7, no good. Okay, queen f6 is forced. Takes. Queen e3. Now queen e7 check wins immediately. Because after queen takes, rook takes, I play rook here and win a rook. So you have to sack the exchange and go into this lost endgame. You can't give up your b-pawn. So he played here. And in this position, Rapport played a move that shocked Svidler. And again, Svidler did the old man Sarawan thing. Svidler's like, go here and take this and take this and take this, and you win. Okay, and Rapport calculates and plays the engine move. And he's like, what kind of move is that? Which is funny for Svidler because he's not as old as Sarawan. And he played c4, which looks really dumb because you're weakening this pawn. Mm-hmm. But it's all based on calculation. So the king can't go here. King can't go here. Yeah. So if you play the obvious move, king here, mm-hmm. and your idea is rook takes pawn, bishop takes pawn, and my bishop got out, right? Now b4 wins the bishop. This is the calculation he did. Okay. So if you take it, you lose your bishop. You agree.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you play king a4, I play c5 and I win your bishop. Your bishop's trapped. I'm going to play rook takes b7 and take it. You have a free move, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you do. I'm going to take your bishop. Truth hurts. So in this position, the game ended and Praggnanandhaa did not resign. He lost on time. He forgot he had no time left.
This was a weird ending, though, trying to learn.
Yeah. The engine says white is plus 5.5. So, yeah, the bishop on a7 is just no good. And so forth.
What was his idea of moving it back at the moment that he did?
Bishop a7? Well, it stops d4 with the tempo. Probably should have been done earlier.
Yeah.
And also, typically, in this particular position, bishop b6 is better than bishop a7 because of what happened. If the bishop needs to get back in the game, we have bishop c7, bishop d8. And instead, his bishop was, it's just trapped in there. So terrible. So nice game by Rapport because he made the game really interesting.
That was a good game.
And then Praggnanandhaa lost the thread of the game, basically.
Yeah, I enjoyed